And now to our first conversation. Across Africa, businesses are rethinking their models, not just to survive tough macroeconomic realities, but to thrive in a future shaped by sustainability, climate change, and shifting consumer expectations. In Nigeria especially, where entrepreneurs face high costs, currency pressures, and regulatory uncertainty, sustainability is no longer just about going green. It's about resilience, innovation, and long-term competitiveness. Well, join us to unpack this now. We have Stephen Ineke Matthews, a chartered management consultant. He's going to be joining me right here in the studio. It's good to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much, sir.
Fantastic. So, definitely entrepreneurs, businesses, going through a lot, right now, but we've had currency stability for a while now. The issues that used to plague us are looking quite stable, right now, if you're looking at the currency front and also cost of, some
inflation,
of the inputs and inflation and all of that. So talk to me about the global push towards sustainability. How's that influencing, business strategies in a country like Nigeria, in your opinion?
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Fantastic.
The issue of business sustainability, it's a global topic, right? You hear issues of EVs coming up every day in America, in China, people talking about moving from fossil fuel to, electric vehicles, to other sorts of power supplies and all that. So if you want to gauge how sustainability influences what we do in Nigeria, the business current trend, Nigerians must move their businesses from dependence on government to finding solutions to help businesses to become more sustainable in the long run. So issues like, for example, you say instead of depending on the telecoms power supplies, instead of depending on the electric power supply companies or businesses can now start focusing on how to generate their own independent power supplies. Solar plants, renewable energy systems, solar panels and all that can come in. That will help companies to also save cost, which will boost productivity. Once productivity is boosted, employment becomes feasible. It means you have more money now to employ more manpower to also eventually boost productivity. But companies are struggling to stay in business because you spend a lot of money providing power. That money spent on power could have been channeled into providing more employment, which will also boost productivity, which will also boost the GDP of the country, which will eventually reduce the word inflation. So all of it works together if we begin to start strategizing and focusing on how...
So I guess there's a delicate balance there.
Yes.
As a company, your margins are strained. You're also trying to provide
quality service
Good. And sustainable ways of doing business, which costs a lot of money.
Absolutely.
How do you balance that realistically?
Realistically, in most companies these days say that you have to depend on loans, for example, to thrive. But I say that I don't believe in depending on loans to run small businesses. Rather, I believe more in building independent capacities to be able to keep the business running. And one of the ways to do that, I keep saying every time, is energy consumption. Managing the cost of running a business. 70% of the cost of running every business is spent on power. This facility now must run on quality, affordable power supply. If not, it will affect this production.
Right.
So for a small business who may not have all that financial bandwidth to be able to run and compete with the bigger ones, how to be able to manage your resources is consider alternate power supply, which gives you access to more funds that you can put that fund into other aspects of production. Once you are able to produce more, you are also able to sell more. If you sell more, you earn more. You earn more, you are able to scale up the business. The scaling of the business also leads toward eventual profitability.
Because I guess, some businesses might be struggling on how to, tag sustainability. Is it a cost burden or a growth opportunity?
Both ways. It's a cost burden. There's something we call a management system that we call the cost of quality. There's something called the cost of quality. in quality, you have two types of cost. You have the preventive cost, and you have the continuous improvement cost. Preventive costs are the costs that you incur to prevent a problem from happening, such as training, maintenance, improving your production capacity, buying new equipment, and all of that. Now, when you fail to put cost in place to prevent damages from happening, you eventually have to spend money in correcting damages when it has happened. So the more you spend on preventive cost, the lesser you will have to spend on corrective cost. The lesser you spend on preventive cost, the more your corrective cost goes up. So it's both ways, both preventive cost and also continuous improvement cost.
Right, and definitely we have some businesses that are trying to, do business in a sustainable way. Do you think they're being rewarded here in Nigeria, those kind of businesses? Of
course. Businesses, I tell you something, my friend. If you travel along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, just for some time, just pay attention to it. You observe that several factories and plants are coming up every day along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway axis. People will not come into Nigeria to do business at that scale if there isn't something here. If they are not going to make profit, they won't come. If the economy, in quote, is not favorable for businesses to thrive, they won't come. The challenge often is that most small business people want to do big things without first doing the small things. So before doing the big things, consider how to minimize wastages. A lot of small businesses spend so much money on telephone rates. A lot of small businesses spend so much money on personal consumption, personal utilities. A lot of small businesses spend so much money on maintenance costs. However, they don't have funds to do big things, but they want to do big things. So in order to prevent you from losing out on the bigger picture, reduce your smaller cost. Reduce telephone rates. Reduce cost of transportation, reduce cost of power. Switch to alternate power supply so you can ration the power consumption. Do like an energy consumption audit every month or every quarter that gives you an idea of how much money we are spending on power. You can divide that cost into two halves. One part you save, the other part keeps the business running.
All right, so definitely you did mention most of the time you have to reduce your reliance on government.
Yes.
As a business.
I'm a huge preacher of that, yes.
But most of the time some will say we need some government input in all of this. What do you think is the sustainable way for government to actually help out, when it comes to energy costs right now? We know most of the companies there it's deregulated, at this point, but I guess there's some policies that could help just lessen that burden.
Okay, first things first, you need to look at it from what is the government role in providing favorable environment for businesses to thrive. Government is not responsible and cannot be responsible for running the day-to-day affairs of every business. What government can do is provide an enabling environment. One, by policy changes, providing sustainable policies over a long period of time. One of the challenges we have in government today is that government policies tend to change just like the way airtime rates or telecom services rate changes every day. That would affect businesses. No business can thrive if the government does not create sustainable long-term policies, right? So if government is able to provide an enabling environment for businesses by providing small businesses with more access to what you call independent funding for their businesses. That way, you also help them reduce taxation. Small businesses spend a lot of money on multiple taxations, and that way businesses cannot thrive. If you don't have what you call a centralized way taxation policy for small businesses, where for every income or every sale, every product sold, this is the expected exact amount of money that is to pay on tax. You cannot survive it in this country. And that's where government comes in to help us say, for every small business, you only have to pay maybe a 5.3% or a 4-point-something% tax on all your production costs. That way that you cannot be paying the same amount of money in taxes like the Dangotes are paying. Small businesses should not be paying VAT or withholding tax of like 15 point something percent compared to what the big guys are paying. So government need to focus a lot more on distinguishing between small businesses and the big businesses, and also give room for self-employed people to also thrive, because it is the SMEs that drives the economy of this country. That's the truth. The small businesses, which makes up the SMEs, that's the powerhouse of the economy. This morning I was reading quickly on the GDP rate of the country as of this morning. I saw that it was about $466 trillion US dollar, the total GDP of the economy. Now, I also did an analysis to say, okay, what is the number of businesses or the category of businesses that helps to push that volume? We found out that SMEs makes up about 70% of the powerhouse that moves the Nigerian economy. So government needs to focus a lot more on paying attention to these SMEs by providing tax reduction. I'm not saying tax waivers, but I'm saying tax reduction, with emphasis on helping them to be able to have more access to resources. That way they can expand their production. Economies will only thrive when production is more. And it is the SMEs that has that powerhouse to provide more production that meets the demand of the populace. That way, businesses can also thrive.
We have a new, tax regime.
No, let's not even go to that. Let's not even go there.
That's coming up.
Until January, we will know exactly what the total framework is, and everybody will be able to find their bearing as to where each person belongs. But I keep saying it, that small businesses should not be taxed the same way big businesses are taxed.
Right.
It's not fair.
I guess that's one debate that will remain with us for the longest time.
For these kinds of meetings, like we were putting something together to help people understand how to build sustainable businesses. So we're organizing the Paradigm Shift Conference, for example, where we gather together, a group of people to also focus on this SMEs movement, to talk to young people on how they can build sustainable businesses, how they can build sustainable wealth through the vehicle of business, because that's where it works. The idea must be planted. That's the seed. The vehicle through which that seed can germinate is through business. So, and for you to be able to succeed in business, you need to have what we call sustainable strategies. That's why we are doing the Paradigm Shift Conference, to teach young people on how this can be done and how you can.
Because we're churning out a lot of young people into the labor force.
Yes.
Thousands and
in fact, our mission is to stop young people from depending on the labor market, to start becoming self-sufficient and self-reliant by creating jobs for themselves, also creating jobs for other people. The more jobs we create, the less dependence will be on the government. Because as it is now, 90% of us in this country depend on the government. Government's movement determines our own direction. That's because there is what we call unemployability problem in Nigeria. We don't have an employment problem. The Bureau of Statistics says we have we call it about 4.3% inflation, dropping now. That is only happening because now many young people are now finding something to do. That's why it's dropping. It's not because, in quote, the government is doing something that is so brilliant.
It's been described the hustle economy.
Yeah. So young people are now finding ways to engage in productive activities. By so doing, the GDP will also go up. Inflation must come down. One will give in. So we are trying to teach young people on how, you can create your own jobs. You can employ other people. You don't need to go to school, come out of school, and depend on the government for jobs.
All right, so much to unpack there.
Absolutely.
Definitely, but we need to shape the minds of the young people we're churning out of school right now. Stephen Enike Matthew, Dr. Stephen Enike Matthew is a chartered management consultant. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective with us today.
Thank you.